Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 30 asks a terrifying question. What happens when the heroes trying to save the future start acting like the villains? Because after Boruto's briefly captured yet again and Mamushi stalks Ada, Kashin Koji has once again made another judgment call. Another innocent person needs to die for the greater good, but this time, unlike with Yodo, the person, they're not a shinobi and they never signed up for the gruesome death that Kashin Koji is setting up. So without further ado, let's just jump right into chapter 30 of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex because this chapter is a game changer. We open up the chapter where the last one left off, but while Shikadai and Chocho are celebrating their successful attack on Mamushi from a few moments ago, Mamushi quietly lifts his head and stares at them with an annoyed look on his face before he and the rest of the clones begin to get up, this time with even more Mamushi clones created, and we see a few things confirmed in this moment. Number one should be obvious, but due to the agenda pushing, it got blown out of proportion, but Chocho is not Jigen level. Mamushi getting back up without any serious injury after being caught off guard and after not actively trying to harm her. At that point, it should have already proven it, but this moment, as he's interacting with her in this chapter, basically proves that this is her Konoha moment from the Pain arc, where Konoha used the Rasengan on Pain and he stunned it. Let me repeat it. He stunned the Pain. He didn't destroy it or severely damage it because his AP at the time was not high enough, even though he caught that version of Pain off guard. That's basically what Chocho did with that expansion jutsu. Now, number two, this moment also drives home the importance for teamwork. In particular, it being used to battle the Shinju threat. But that brings us to what happens next. Himawari, the only person on this three-man team with a high enough attack potency to battle Mamushi, immediately uses Kurama's chakra to quickly form a Bijudama on command, merely telling Team 10 to watch out and not give any warning. Shikadai looks alarmed, and rightfully so for a few different reasons. They're battling inside the central business district. There are literally innocent people behind Himawari who have not been evacuated, and with a Bijudama being fired off by Himawari at point blank range, Shikadai grows extremely pissed off as he realizes what's about to happen. Himawari, without even thinking things through, she's about to nuke the entire downtown area. It's here that Shikadai shows he is truly the son of two of the biggest geniuses in Naruto history, Temari and Shikamaru. And he does this by using a new variation of the Shadow Possession Jutsu that appears to have been created during the 3-year time skip, where he applies a change in chakra form to the jutsu to cage up all the Mamushi clones tightly together inside of a ball where they can't move, and he orders Chocho to throw the Mamushi clones high into the air, as high as she can, and with the target in the air, Himawari shoots off the Bijudama at Mamushi, and it's very subtle, but we see that Shikadai definitely made the right call here if you pay close attention. Himawari right now has both halves of the Kurama who died giving Naruto burial mode. That's an insane amount of chakra for a 13-year-old girl, but she has a long way to go before she can properly contain all that chakra. Just like the battle against Jura in chapter 11 showed, when she fires off the Bijudama, she's releasing way too much chakra to the point that the ground itself is shattering beneath her feet, and the explosion via that high volume of chakra, we see that she still has some skill issues to clean up because she cannot contain the area of effect. That Bijudama was detonated hundreds of feet high in the air, high above all the buildings. When you look at the blast radius of the explosion, it is stretching higher up still, and the shock waves are going out in numerous directions. Some of them are going past the buildings themselves. Had Himawari detonated that Bijudama on the ground at point blank range, all those people you see, which is 70 according to what we're told in the last chapter, they'd all be dead, as well as the members of Team 10. As Uncle Ben from Spider-Man likes to say, with great power comes great responsibility, and Shikadai basically lets her know the same thing when she tries to apologize for what it is she did when she realizes, oh, I almost killed everybody. He doesn't mince his words either, telling her very sternly she won't always have Team 10 there to bail her out, but before he can scold her any further, Shikadai realizes that there are other Mamushi clones that he didn't ensnare and they taken off running. not because they're scared of Himawari, but because they're following a trend of what we've seen. If you're not Notsuki, so Boruto Kawaki, they don't care about consuming you. And above all else, their primary target is Ada. Unless they are directly engaged, they don't want to fight. This is when we learn that Mamushi has made over 100 clones and counting, far more than the 30 that Kashin Koji and Shikamaru had planned for, which, speaking of Shikamaru, things are about to get very rocky for him because Kobu has once again demanded Shikamaru come to him in the interrogation room, and he's making it clear he's not about having his time wasted. When Sai tries to interject saying, "Lord Kobu, the village is under attack," and Boruto is also inside the village, Kobu gives Sai that sussy baka look, realizing yet again, Boruto, the traitor, he's inside the village, someone that Kobu's trying to find out why this guy isn't dead yet. And when Sai tells him that staying here might get him killed, Kobu isn't hearing it. The reason is very simple when you think about it. Boruto is yet again inside the village, and there's activity with the Shinju yet again taking place. These things continue to pop up, and so far only in Konoha, no other villages so far outside of the isolated attack in the Land of Wind, just outside the Hidden Sand Village, and even then Boruto was there. And the very hokage that Kobu is investigating in this moment is giving him more reason to be suspicious. Before he makes his decision to redemand Shikamaru appear in front of him, Kobu asks for intel on the Shinju. He says, what are their goals? What are they after? What are they doing here? But when Sai states he doesn't know the current goal of the Shinju, Kobu doubles down and says, well, I'll take my chances. Bring me Shikamaru. Meanwhile, Mamushi continues to make even more clones, having them run through the village in pursuit of Ada, and as he does so, Delta is watching high in the sky with a keen eye as she waits for Sarada to rendezvous with her. Sarada sees the large number and is preparing to go into battle alongside Delta, but Shikamaru orders her to stand down along with the others. And being the expert strategist that he is, Shikamaru understands it's time to shift the strategy. He's acting like someone that's playing a game of sequence or somebody that is playing a game of shogi and realizing the plan that they're using is not working. Shikamaru states, there are too many Mamushi clones right now. Over 100 versions of Mamushi. All of them, they have their horny eyes. They're looking for Ada. And each is just as powerful as the real Mamushi. While they are more unintelligent, since the number of them splits the intelligence evenly instead of chakra, they are more prone to being primal, and that makes it a problem if any of them gets aggressive, which thankfully for them, nobody in Konoha outside of the Boruto team has attacked them. However, before Shikamaru can give a new plan of action, the sensory unit patches him into communication, telling him to meet with Kobu, and when Shikamaru tries to brush it off, Kobu speaks via the mind transmission jutsu, and he pulls rank. He says, Shikamaru, I'm here at the request of the feudal lord. Anything that I am telling you is basically the feudal lord telling you to do something. You don't order me around, which that might be a hard pill to swallow for some fans, but I'll stress again. The feudal lord is the one who bankrolls the village. Ninja villages, even at their peak, have never earned enough to sustain themselves. And they don't even own the very land that the villages are built on. It all belongs to the feudal lord. Shikamaru is in a bind and he knows it, which is why he stands down. Kashin Koji then takes over the situation now that he knows that Shikamaru is off the board for the most part. And he does this by coming up with his own counter strategy that he keeps to himself while he explains to Inojin what's going on. And while Boruto tries to get updates simultaneously by Shikamaru via Inojin's new jutsu, Shikamaru tells Boruto to stand by and wait for his orders. But before Boruto can press any further, Konoha shinobi, they've gotten the drop on Boruto, wrapping him in chains to capture him and slam him onto the ground. Somewhere inside of that tree and inside that Daikokuden dimension, Sasuke and Naruto respectively are going. The whole point of our training with you in part 1 was to make sure you stop letting your guard down. It's just one more continuous sign of what we've seen. While 15-year-old Boruto has improved, some of his flaws from part 1 of Boruto, they still show themselves up at time to time. However, getting back to the story itself, one of the Konoha shinobi, as they report in with the sensor unit, realizes that Boruto has cut all the heads off of the Shinju, And when he picks up Boruto's sword, we see the chakra getting drained out the person right away, enough that the guy collapses on the ground, just as Sumire warned Boruto would be the case. Boruto then weaves the hand sign for the Flying Thunder God and teleports next to the sword, which has been marked with Boruto's seal, in order to escape the chains, and he leaves the Konoha shinobi with a warning. They're punching way above their weight class, and it's in their best interest. The next time they see Shinju, they just need to run away. Otherwise, they'll all end up dead. Boruto then flies off into the air to get another read on the battlefield and avoid any more unnecessary conflict. Elsewhere, we see Sarada and Delta continue to watch the Mamushi clones closely as they look for Ada. But now, their search pattern, it is shifted to more of not being random and more so being more focused, like a predator who realizes that he may be closing in with his prey even though he doesn't know exactly where. As Shikamaru digests this information, he tells Inojin to take over the planning for the mission to update everyone as need be, and Kashin Koji via his toad tells Shikamaru, place this toad inside your cloak, just trust me. Meanwhile, the Mamushi clones, they've begun to gather around the Hokage office building. Boruto, he's high up in the air, once again aura farming, and as he does so, he gives a worried expression when he hears Kashin Koji state that he has a plan, and Boruto knows Kashin Koji better than anyone else. When Kashin Koji has a plan, it usually means that someone's about to be put in a position where if they live, then they live. But if they die, well, a few extra bodies, they're needed for the greater good. Almost as if on cue, Kashin Koji tells Inojin, shut down all communication with everyone else. And as Inojin follows orders, we see Shikamaru arrive in the interrogation room. This is where all the cards are basically placed on the table. And in the Japanese manga, the way that Shikamaru is written here, he's not hiding his displeasure. He drops all honorifics. He drops all pleasantries. Instead, he's talking bluntly to Kobu, saying they need to wrap this conversation up quickly. And this is a big deal just from a cultural perspective, given just how big respect is in Japan. As established earlier, Shikamaru is basically talking to his boss, and depending on the mood, he could literally put the village in a situation where all assistance that they get from the feudal lord, it is removed, and the village itself will be in a world of hurt economically, which, if you're confused by that, I'll leave linked in the description box my video on why Hokages do not rebel against the feudal lords if you need a further explanation. Kobu tells Shikamaru, I was suspicious of you from the very beginning. I know it was you who helped Boruto escape. And the fact that you're so quick to argue against that is giving me all the more reason to think it, and I'll have all the evidence I need soon. He tells Shikamaru, just admit that you carried out treason against the land of fire, and I'll give you a lighter sentence. But before Shikamaru can answer, Kashin Koji tells Inojin, use that mind transmission jutsu once the toad emerges from the cloak of Kashin Koji and Shikamaru simultaneously. The way this is being done is pretty crafty by Kashin Koji here. He's basically using the toad that is there in the hideout and connecting it with the toad that is in Shikamaru's cloak that has now made eye contact with Kobu, which that toad is basically acting like a conduit or like a Wi-Fi router for the jutsu itself. Within seconds, Kobu is under the effects of the jutsu, and Shikamaru's expression is one of someone who has no idea of what just happened, but he begins to catch on as Kobu face plants, but he's not the only one who eventually catches on to what it is that is happening. When Kobu lifts his head and he's now under Inojin's control, Inojin slips up at the sight of his father and calls him Papa, and he tries to play it off, but the damage has been done. Sai is watching him closely, and this is a moment that I really love here because this is more than a shinobi seen through deception, especially when you consider that Sai is somebody that read a lot of books and had to do a lot of research to understand human emotions and etc. Sai is also a parent right now, and this is quite literally a parent looking at someone using the mannerisms of their child, their only child, and even if he can't prove it, he knows it. Sai is basically like that black guy in all those memes that's watching from the car, and he's like, I know you're sus, but I can't prove it. Based on my audience data, 60% of you guys that are watching this channel, you're over the age of 24, which means chances are a large portion of you are either married or you have children. A parent knows their child's cry when they hear it. They know the waves in which their children move when they see them. Even the way that they speak. It's the same thing when you're with somebody that is your significant other and you're in a deeply committed relationship. There are just certain nonverbal cues that you pick up on with that person. They could be wearing a mask and you would know. Sai didn't need much here. He didn't even need the verbal speech patterns of Kobu switching in the Japanese manga from being authoritative and formal to suddenly being more laid back, more childish, and mixing in informalities. But between the mannerisms, between looking in the eyes of Kobu, looking at the way that Kobu was looking at him, that was more than enough for him to know that this is my son, and my friends, this is a big problem for Shikamaru. After Kobu leaves the room under Inojin's control, Sai rips right into Shikamaru when Shikamaru does try to leave. He demands to know what it is that he's using his son for, and Sai says that he wasn't sure at first, but once he saw Kobu's eyes, he knew without any doubt that it was his son in control using the mind transfer jutsu, and he demands to know what it is that's going on. He wants to know what it is that his son has been pulled into, and unfortunately for him, Shikamaru does not fully know. He has a certain degree of plausible deniability. Now, you really have to feel for Shikamaru here, as well as, most importantly, Ino and Sai. Shikamaru already is on the outs with Ino, after Inojin was almost killed. As Ino was looking over her son's body in chapter 14 while Sakura was healing him, Ino said she refused to help Shikamaru assist Boruto any further. Now, he's gone from using Ino to now using her son, and Sai, Ino's husband, is dangerously close to figuring out that, hey, wait a second, Kobu has proof that Shikamaru is helping Boruto, or he's about to have proof, but now his own son, Inojin, is also helping, and Sai is being set up to figure out that eventually his wife was guilty as well. This is putting Sai in a position where he's eventually gonna have to go all in on Team Shikamaru, because he, as a husband, has to protect his wife and his child from the dishonor that will befall the Yamanaka clan name if Shikamaru and his helpers, which would be Ino and Inojin, end up getting exposed by Kobu. Unbeknownst to them, Kashin Koji, he had Kobu, being controlled by Inojin, go out onto the top of the Hokage tower, walk out onto the ledge, and he tells him, I want you to kill Kobu. When Inojin asks, hey fam, are you joking? Koji tells him, look man, I want you to think about this logically. Kobu is in the way of our goal. He is, for all intents and purposes, an enemy, and that means he has to die. Now, this makes you go back to Koji's earlier conversations with Inojin, and if you read between the lines of what he was doing, it becomes clear. He took out a page from that book of Makima from Chainsaw Man. Allow me to explain what I mean. Remember how Koji was asking him, you like Himawari and you want to protect her, right? So touch this toad so we can talk in person. Inojin touched the toad. That showed him that Inojin could follow orders. When he tells Inojin to connect him with Shikamaru, he does it, and that further conditions him. Inojin is now getting used to breaking the rules, doing things that are operating outside of his morality, and Boruto, without realizing he was playing into Koji's hands, it's like, look fam, we're already breaking rules, we need to do this. When he tells Inojin, I need you to master a jutsu that was made to avenge Himawari in another timeline, he used Inojin's love for Himawari against him. Now Inojin is now further invested, and his resolve to learn that jutsu in under a day shows how far he will go when he is pushed. We are seeing the wholesome instincts of Jiraiya being repurposed for somebody who has no problem using that shinobi instincts and teaching for other methods. Take it a step further. When Boruto left and Koji spoke to Inojin about 10 directions, what did he say to him? He told him, if you knew you had to die for Himawari to awaken her power, could you do it? Most people, they wouldn't. It's human nature. He's giving an extreme example, a personalized one, to make the point. Everything I do is for the greater good. Look at how my decisions benefited your beloved Himawari. He then gave the example of, look at this timeline here that we're trying to prevent. You held Himawari's dead body in your arms. You were crying at your helplessness. You were crying at your grief. And it's because our enemy killed her right before he killed Ada. Right now, we're trying to prevent that from happening. Kobu isn't the enemy who killed Himawari, but dude, he is our enemy. He's setting up the us versus them mentality for Inojin to follow. He's saying without saying, since Kobu is our enemy, you should not feel bad. It's methodical conditioning that would make Makima's panties completely wet, and I absolutely love it. I love this character archetype, just putting my bias all the way out there. Now, the problem though, whether it be because Koji hasn't had as much time with Inojin yet to fully manipulate him to get him to cross that moral line that he needs, and whether or not he's overplayed his hand, or it be a situation where Inojin is pushing back and Koji knows he has to push a little harder. But notice how Inojin calls him crazy, saying he's gone mad, but he doesn't directly say that he's refusing to do what Koji said, which is to jump off the building, break the jutsu right before hitting the ground, and they can blame Kobu's death on Mamushi, which you can make the argument, and I would think it's a very sound argument, that Inojin would not go through with it based on where he is right now, but that was Koji's plan. However, before we can see whether or not Koji will make any further adjustments to manipulate Inojin towards the desired action of breaking free of his own morality, Mamushi suddenly appears, demanding to know where is Ada, and Koji goes, fine. It's time to move to the backup plan for my backup plan. The toad that he's controlling fires off an attack right there on the spot without warning. That attack ends up grazing Mamushi on the cheek, and Mamushi immediately spawns another 5 clones right there on the spot, swearing to kill Kobu. And Koji takes solace in knowing one way or another he's setting himself up to have Kobu killed, and Inojin will switch back to his main body in order to avoid being killed. The narrator then ends off with a chilling set of words as well, saying that one can't be picky when chasing their goals, and that we have to wait to see what Inojin's choice will be. Will it be cold logic, or will the morality instilled in him by his parents prevail? While that's it for this chapter review, you can click here on the left to relive the Boruto story from the very beginning via the Boruto full story playlist that covers Boruto Part 1 in depth and then transitions to the first few arcs of Boruto Part 2, or you can click here to watch my new video from Anime Explained where I discuss all 14 domain expansions in Jujutsu Kaisen.